Good morning, Abundant Life Church. This is Pastor Chris, and today we're going to continue our study of John chapter 12, verses 12 through 19. It's Palm Sunday. Jesus is riding into Jerusalem, seated on a donkey. That's a clear message that he's coming as a king. It's a fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. Everybody gets this. The Pharisees get it. The common people there get it. Jesus got it. One group of people didn't get it. All right, look at verse 16. At first, his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. At first, his disciples did not understand all this. What's all this? It's the riding into town on a donkey. Well, now they couldn't have been surprised that Jesus saw himself as a king. They couldn't have been surprised that the people saw that too. This is exactly what they had been expecting. This is exactly what they had been pressuring him to do. They've been dropping hints. They've been asking things like, hey, which one of us is going to be the greatest in your kingdom? The idea of Jesus claiming to be a king wasn't, where did that come from? It's exactly what they had been desiring. They should have been jumping up and down that finally they got what they wanted. He's ready to be their king. So, how on earth are they confused by this? I used to, when I was in Central Oregon, on my way to and from work every day, I passed by a ranch. And, this is just a ranch out around a bunch of other ranches, not a lot of buildings out there or anything. And so I drive along and I wasn't really paying close attention. I'm listening to the radio or I'm lost in my thoughts. It's a long road, nobody on the road. I'm just driving along. And there was a dog at this ranch. He kept startling me because I wasn't thinking about the dog. And this dog all of a sudden is running out on the road, barking like that, trying to chase the car. All right, fine. He got me every time. And I would tell myself, okay, remember when you come back home this evening, don't let the dog startle you. And I would forget. And he did this to me time after time after time. He wanted that car so bad. And one day I remembered, okay, that dog's going to come out at me. So I tried something new. When he started barking and coming out at me, I stopped the car. Okay, dog, you wanted this car so bad. Here it is. You know what he did? He just kind of stopped, looked at the car, sniffed the tires, and walked away. I can't believe I did this. I'm not proud of it. I rolled my window down and started trash talking the dog. Hey, I thought this is what you wanted. This is what the disciples remind me of. They remind me of that stupid dog. You guys wanted this. And now when it's here, you're confused. Your first reaction is confusion. What are you confused about? Even the Pharisees get that Jesus is claimed to be a king. Did they not know what this meant, or was there something else here that was troubling to them? I think the key to understanding this question is understanding exactly what John said and exactly what it meant. Let's go back to verse 16 here, and let's read it very, very carefully. Verse 16 says, at first his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him and that these things had been done to him. All right. First, let's establish that the 12 knew exactly what the entry meant. They did. They weren't going, wait, Jesus wants to be a king? Where did that come from? No. They knew Jesus was going to be a king. They got that. But John says all of this confused them. There's that little word, all. That means there was more than the events of this Sunday that confused him. What other events did John mean? Well, we have to look at the whole story, the whole event. the whole week. Did anything else happen to Jesus that week that they wouldn't have seen coming? I mean, here's Jesus. He's going to be the greatest king ever. Finally, he's going to start his reign. And a few days later, he's dead. He's been arrested and he's been hung on a cross. Just a few days after, he rides into Jerusalem in triumph. It was over before it ever began. How could this guy be a king sent by God who had power over death himself? How could somebody with all that power be defeated so easily? That can't be how it's supposed to go. Ernie Davis, here's another football or another sports story for you. Ernie Davis won the Heisman Trophy in 1962. That's the trophy given to the greatest college football player of the year. 1962, Ernie Davis wins it. He's drafted, the first player taken by the Cleveland Browns, drafted number 1. I'm sorry, not the Browns. It was the Washington Redskins. But the Redskins, I thought this was a long time ago, and the owner of the Redskins insisted that he have an all-white team. Didn't want any black players on his team, and Ernie Davis was black. So he gets traded to the Cleveland Browns. Now, Cleveland already has a really good running back. In fact, probably the greatest running back, the greatest football player of all time, Jim Brown. They don't really need Ernie Davis, but here's what they're thinking. They're going to put him in the same backfield with Jim Brown. So now you don't know which guy is getting the ball, the greatest football player of all time or the greatest college football player of the last year. Either one of those guys are just going to destroy you. There's no way to stop the Browns if they're going to have Jim Brown and Ernie Davis in the same backfield. It's going to be the greatest backfield to ever play. So, you want to know how many yards they gained playing together? And the answer to that is, I have it right here, the answer is 0. They never played a single game together. Why not? Before the season could even begin, Ernie Davis, a young man, died of cancer. Now, that's a tragic story. Anytime a young person dies of cancer, it's a tragedy. But to think about what could have been, people's imaginations were set on fire by the idea of these two guys playing in the same backfield. And just like that, it was over. Jesus is the king, and we've been waiting for this. And he comes into town, and a few days later, it's over. It's over. The disciples aren't confused that Jesus rode into town as a king. They weren't confused that people wanted him to be their king. They were confused by what happened in just a few days. It was over before it started. How does that make any sense? But when John, one of those confused disciples, when he wrote this years later, he was looking back on everything that had happened. And when you factor in that a week later Jesus rose from the dead, all right, then it finally makes sense. Then we can process all this. They're confused at first because God didn't live up to their expectations. But when you look at God's plan, you're going to see God's plans are actually better than ours. Let me say that again. God's plans are actually better than ours. We'll talk more about this next time. Till then, have a great day.